أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه اللهم إني أسألك علما نافعا ونعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وسلم. My brothers and sisters in Islam, we are now in the final majlis, the final night of these majalis in the blessed month of al-Awwal, the birth month of al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we have been reading Silsilah al-Ibriz bi Aziz, also known as al-Arba'in of Shah, Waliullah, Dehlawi, in which we read through in the first session the asanid and the turuq, that which we have learned this book from and given ijaza mutlaqa in permission to teach. And as I encourage you all to go back and listen to episode or session 1 again, which talks a lot about the importance of having connection to these chains of transmission. Also, to make another point, that frequently in this dars and these durus or these sessions, we have made mention in it of the takhrij of the hadith, and has been mentioned the Sheikh of our shuyukh, Sharif Ahmed ibn Muhammad ibn Siddiq al-Ghumari al-Hasani Ghafarallahu lah, and the book Fath Wahab, which is a takhrij of Musnad Shihab by al-Qadai, in which the hadith in this text, Silsilah al-Ibriz bi Sanad Aziz, they can be found in al-Qadai's text. And we mentioned the takhrij of the Sharif or the Sayyid. His name was mentioned, but it doesn't mean that the fakir believes in all of the theological or jurisprudential beliefs of the Sheikh. And we have to say that we can take knowledge that's beneficial and connect with the chains of these scholars. It doesn't mean that we have to adhere to all of their opinions. And you know, without a doubt, that Sheikh Ahmed ibn Muhammad Siddiq al-Ghumari al-Hasani, may Allah forgive him, had some shadudat. He had some opinions in aqidah and fiqh that were bizarre anomalies, we can say, and so we don't adhere to those. But he was no doubt one of the great hadith scholars of the 20th century, just as one of my teachers was a student of Sheikh al-Albani, and like Sheikh Ahmed ibn Muhammad Siddiq al-Ghumari, how the fakir does not hold to all of his beliefs and fiqh opinions. Likewise with Sheikh al-Albani, we disagree with Sheikh al-Albani on some i'tiqadi issues, and even more so even on fiqh. May Allah forgive him as well. But that doesn't mean that we don't take from our teachers and get the benefit from that which they learned from their teachers, which was transmitted. So with that clarification, we will mention the last two hadith number 39, hadith 40, and close out these majalis with dua, hoping for Allah's acceptance in this matter. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم السفر قطعة من العذاب. Translated, this means that travel is a piece of, or we could say is like a section or a form of torment. Is a form of torment. And we will give the explanation. This has been narrated by Imam Malik in his al-Muwatta, and Ahmed ibn Hanbal, Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal in his Musnad, and by the Shaykhain, meaning al-Bukhari wa Muslim. We say Shaykhain hadith is al-Bukhari wa Muslim, When Shaykhain is just generally used, is normally used as known as Abu Bakr and Umar. And this is also narrated by Ibn Majah, and this is through the riwayah of Abu Huraira, with some ziyada in the hadith. And besides these, it also was narrated in Hilatul Awliya by Abu Nu'aym Asfahani, and also in Tarikh Baghdad from al-Khatib, and Abdul Razak and his Musannaf, Abdul Razak as-San'ani, Yemeni, and one of the shuyukh of al-Bukhari, and Tabarani and his Saghir have narrated this as well, and al-Qada'i and Musnad al-Shihab as well, and the 12ers have this. Ibn Babawayh, also known as Saduq, and al-Faqih, and al-Majlisi narrates this as well. Travel, meaning long travel, can be arduous, and the arduous nature of it can feel almost like torment. It can be very difficult. In the olden days, people would travel long distances, sometimes on camel. Even like the Sahaba, traveling from Mecca to all the way to Habasha, on foot and in the desert, lacking provisions, maybe little to no provisions at all, in the sweltering heat, fearing for lives, sometimes being pursued. This in itself can be so hard in the hot sun, long distances, being very tired, that it could feel very taxing, almost like a form of like punishment or torment on the one who travels long distances. Even in modern times, without taking breaks and traveling from different countries in long distances, like maybe from America to Malaysia, for instance. Such a long travel without getting sleep can be very tiring, and if one misses one flight or all sorts of things, it can be very arduous and very trying. Likewise, going to new places after long distances, maybe not knowing the language, knowing the culture. This in of itself can be very trying and in fact dangerous. Hence, we are told this by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that there are difficulties and in fact can be dangers in traveling that can feel like torment. In the 40th hadith, this relates to something that is in the Quran. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم خير زاد التقوى. The best of provisions is at-taqwa. This has been narrated by Abu Shaykh and his Thawab on the authority of Abdullah ibn Abbas radhiyallahu anhuma, and with ziyada in the hadith. And al-Bayhaqi narrates this as well from Uqba ibn Amr. So there's two of the Sahaba besides Sayyidina Ali narrating this. And then the takhrij of this is also ma'nawiya, meaning similar hadith with not verbatim of the beginning part, but with slightly different wording. Imam Ahmed narrates this in his Kitab al-Zuhud, and also in his Musnad. And then al-Bukhari in his Tarikh narrate this, as well as Ibn Majah and Imam al-Tirmidhi, Ibn Abi Hatim, and al-Hakam an-Nisaburi in his book al-Mustadrak al-Sahihain, a book he collected in which he claimed he was using the same methodology of Imam al-Bukhari and Muslim in narrating a hadith, but a hadith from chains that they left off. And also al-Bayhaqi in his book of the branches of faith. Besides this, our 12 brothers also narrate this hadith by as-Saduq, also known as Ibn Babawayh, and al-Faqih, his book al-Faqih, and also in al-Amali and al-Muwa'idh, that has been narrated as well. And al-Majlisi and Bihar Anwar, and a similar saying from the Hikmah of Sayyidina Ali, at least Sharif al-Radi in his book Najul Balaga mentions this as well. And there is differences of opinion about, as I think we mentioned before, about what was the actual madhab of this man whose title is Sharif al-Radi. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala mentioned in his book in Khair al-Zadi at-Taqwa that surely the best provisions at taqwa, and this relates also to the saying of al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So going on long travels, especially for Hajj, and for Hajj one needs to have provisions and the capacity to be able to have their minimal provisions to take care of to get in the Hajj and the back. So a person should not go on Hajj and be begging. They should not go to Hajj and be begging or be in severe circumstances. And when we say this, we mean going there with no provisions. It's different if one is traveling and they lose all their money, or they lost their access to their provisions, right? Then one would be forced out of necessity to be asking. But one should have the proper provisions in going for an arduous journey, especially on Hajj. But the best provision is at taqwa, and this is obviously, or maybe not so obviously, that which will send one through, and the true provision at Hajj, in which its objective is taqwa of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, but being regardful of Allah Azza wa Jal. And this regardfulness, as we've been told, narrated by Ibn Mas'ud, Waliullah, is to obey and not disobey. To be grateful and not ungrateful, and to remember and not forget. Right? This is the summation of having taqwa as should be rightly had for Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And this is the provision that one should take with them on a journey, and especially such as going to Hajj. And how many people make that sacred pilgrimage and disobey and or go ignorant of the rulings of Hajj, or learn them and ignore them, and had money and were able to eat good food, and they did shopping, and perhaps they invalidated their Hajj because of a lack of taqwa. So my brothers and sisters in Islam, we have concluded these sessions, and we ask Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal to accept from us, through our love of His Habib sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, we ask Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal to increase us in beneficial knowledge, and we seek refuge from knowledge that has no benefit. We ask Almighty Allah to grant relief to all of the Muslims who are suffering all throughout the world, especially our brothers and sisters in Palestine. We also ask Almighty Allah to lift all the difficulties from our brothers and sisters in Sudan and Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, Burma, also known as Myanmar, in China, all throughout the world, Ya Rabb Alameen, in occupied Kashmir, Muslim brothers and sisters in India. We ask this by the right of al-Habib Mustafa Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, that this dua be accepted. We ask Almighty Allah Azza wa Jalla to grant us the intercession of al-Habib Mustafa Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, to not deprive us of his suhbah in the akhirah. And we ask Almighty Allah Azza wa Jalla to guide the people of the lands that we live in that are not upon Islam, to guide them to La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.